Monster we were taught to fear, Medusa. The name alone sends a chill. The snake-haired monster who could turn men to stone with a single gaze. A villain, a horror, a cautionary tale. But what if everything you thought you knew about her was a lie? What if she wasn't always a monster? What if Medusa was once a woman, beautiful, vibrant, full of life, and her transformation into a beast was not a punishment for evil, but the result of being violated, silenced, and blamed? Because the deeper you dig into Medusa's myth, the more you realize this isn't a story about a monster. It's a story about how society creates monsters out of women who refuse to be victims. The origin of pain, from temple to curse. Medusa was once a mortal priestess of Athena, sworn to chastity, purity, and sacred devotion. She served the goddess with reverence inside her temple. But then Poseidon, the mighty god of the sea, saw her, and he took her. Right there in the sacred space of the temple, Medusa was assaulted. And instead of punishing Poseidon, the god who violated that sanctity, Athena cursed Medusa, not him, her. She turned Medusa's luscious hair into venomous snakes. She made her face so terrifying that any man who dared to look at her would be petrified. Literally. Why? Because in ancient myths, as in society today, a violated woman isn't always comforted. She's judged, blamed, made an example of. Medusa became the symbol of shame. But here's the twist. Her curse became her shield. The Medusa mirror, fear of uncontrolled power. Now step back. Look at the myth with modern eyes. Medusa became terrifying because she no longer played by the rules. She stopped being beautiful and passive and became dangerous and powerful. And society hates that. Even today, a woman who speaks too loudly, too confidently, she's called intimidating, bossy, aggressive. A woman who says no, she's cold, unfriendly. A woman who demands justice after trauma, she's playing the victim. The snakes on Medusa's head, they weren't symbols of evil. They were symbols of rage, autonomy, and awakening. She wasn't turning men to stone just because she was angry. Perseus the hero, or the enforcer of silence. Enter Perseus, the golden boy, the hero, the one sent on a noble mission. Slay the beast, bring back her head. But what's not often told is that Medusa, by this point, lived in exile. Far from men, far from cities. She wasn't terrorizing villages. She wasn't hunting mortals. She was left alone, and she wanted to be left alone. But men don't like what they can't control. So Perseus was armed, not just with weapons, but with divine tools. Athena herself gave him a reflective shield. Hermes gave him a sword. Hades gave him the helmet of invisibility. They didn't just want Medusa dead, they wanted her erased. Perseus didn't face Medusa like a hero would face a monster. He used stealth, trickery, the reflection in a mirror so he wouldn't have to look at her directly. The weaponized woman. When even death isn't the end after killing her, Perseus used her severed head as a weapon. Turn enemies into stone, conquer kingdoms, slay beasts. Even in death, Medusa was useful, but only when her power served men. Her head was mounted on Athena's shield, the very goddess who once cursed her. And just like that, her power was reclaimed, repackaged, and controlled. Does that sound familiar? How many times have women's voices been silenced until they say something that benefits others? How often are women's stories only told when someone else can profit from them? Even today, Medusa's face is used in fashion, branding, and iconography, but it's rarely paired with her truth. She became a symbol again, this time of luxury and edge. But who owns that symbol? Not her. The modern Medusas, women who refuse to break. Look around you. There are Medusas everywhere. The woman who spoke up about workplace harassment and was labeled difficult. The survivor who shared her trauma and was told she was lying, exaggerating, seeking attention. the activist who fights for equality and is branded angry or radical. Every time a woman reclaims her voice, her space, her body, society panics. Because it remembers Medusa, not as a monster, but as a mirror that shows us everything we try to hide. Our biases, our fears, our discomfort with female rage, female pain, female power. But here's the truth. Medusa's story doesn't end with her death. It ends with us rewriting it, seeing her not as the villain, but as the voice we've long been told to silence. Reclaiming the gaze. When the monster looks back, in the traditional myth, Medusa's power came from her gaze, a look so terrifying it turned men to stone. But what if that wasn't a curse? What if it was a defense, a boundary, a warning? In a world that constantly objectifies women, reducing them to bodies, appearances, and roles, Medusa's gaze flipped the script. She looked back, and the world couldn't handle it. The real danger wasn't that she turned men to stone. It was that she refused to be looked at without consequence. Today, reclaiming that gaze is a revolutionary act. When women speak boldly on public platforms, when they walk through the world without shrinking, when they dare to say, "You cannot define me, control me, or rewrite my pain," they are doing what Medusa was punished for, owning their narrative. And if that makes them monsters, then maybe it's time we ask, who taught us that power in a woman is something to fear? From monster to myth, turning pain into power. The story of Medusa is not just about a woman who was punished. It's about the many ways power is stolen, reshaped, and then sold back to us in a form that no longer threatens the status quo. But myths evolve, and we, the storytellers of today, have the power to rewrite them. To say, Medusa was not evil. She was made into a villain by those who feared her strength. She is the woman who survives violence, who dares to scream, who refuses to bow, who rises even when the world tells her to stay buried. Her face, once feared, is now a reminder that what society calls monstrous is often just misunderstood courage. So the next time you're told you're too loud, too emotional, too intense, too much, remember Medusa, and know that sometimes being feared is just the first step to being free.